OneX Developer Podcast.
I was talking about the number 1 and the letter X and the OneX Developer Podcast, which you're now listening to or watching on YouTube. And my name is Colin, and I'm here with
Brendan.
And this is the OneX Developer Podcast.
Welcome.
And today we're going to be talking about open source software, this little thing where people make code. They make code.
Yeah.
That sounds like a weird way to say it. Make code. I guess that's what they do.
Absolutely.
They write code, they program, and they do it for free, and they put it on the internet and share it with everybody.
Yeah. It's kind of, I think it's kind of a fascinating thing that it's become so foundational to the internet, right? It was, or maybe it hasn't even become, it was always foundational to the internet.
Yeah. We've talked about open source software before on this show, right?
I think so. I can't remember if we've done a whole episode on it, but we've definitely touched on it before, touched on our thoughts about open source software. I think being web developers, it comes up constantly.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you can't even really do it without touching some open source project. Didn't they used to I guess they called it shareware, where it was like you would just send a disk to people?
Yeah, sure. Man,
familiar with this?
Yeah, I've heard that. I remember the term shareware. I don't remember what it actually meant though. I thought shareware was meant like you can just pass the disk around to anybody.
Shareware is a type of proprietary software that is initially shared by the owner for trial use at little or no cost. So that's different from open source. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
So never mind.
But the big thing about open source software is that the source code is available, right? That's right,
which is different from it just being free to use.
Yes. So one of the articles that we kind of that we read in preparation for this was this article from Ginger Bill that we'll link to in the show notes. But he kind of makes that distinction there. It's totally reasonable to charge for your software, and that's why open source has traditionally made this separation between free as in beer and free as in freedom. So something can be free as in freedom, meaning the source code is available to you, but it's also totally reasonable to charge people money for it.
But why would I do that? Why would I pay money for something that is I could build myself?
That's a great question. And, I think that's one of the things that how do open source maintainers make a living off their software while still providing the source code?
I'd be interested, how many developers do you think do that really? How many developers, it's like their full-time job to do open source, and they actually make a livable income from that.
Are we including people who are working on open source while being paid by big companies like Red Hat and IBM and stuff? Because I think that's okay. I think that's a pretty reasonable number then. I think the big companies do sponsor developers to work on open source projects that are important to those companies.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, that's probably not that uncommon. But I imagine it's pretty uncommon that somebody has an open source project that they started and, they make a livable income from donations and stuff.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly the point, right? At that point, you're really just relying on donations. There's no reason other than people wanting to support the project and wanting to do the right thing for people to pay for the software because the source code is available. I will say also that though, that there's this idea of like people make a distinction sometimes between. Okay, hold on. I had some notes here. People make a distinction between open source software and free and open source software, right? So there is software out there that you would pay for and then also get the source code in addition to the product itself, right? I think that model is that, I don't know. It feels to me like that model is somewhat rare these days. Usually something is either free and open source or it's proprietary closed source. And there's not a lot of in between there.
I would say so. And when I hear people say open source or FOSS or really any of those terms, I kind of think of it as like one thing, even though those can mean different things. I think generally people mean, in colloquial English, we're talking about the FOSS model.
Yeah, I think so. Especially with as popular as GitHub is these days, I think that most people expect that if you say a project is open source, that means that you've put the source code on GitHub and it's available to anyone.
Yeah, that is funny. It almost always does mean GitHub specifically too.
These days,
which is,
for sure.
Which is a Microsoft product.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but anyway.
I don't think that was always the case, but for sure, that seems to have become. People use GitHub for all kinds of stuff. Like my impression is that people use it a lot for like data science kind of stuff, just for version control of data sets and stuff like that. Even stuff that's not like really source code.
Yeah, I've started recently like just putting my config files on repos that are public if you care, I guess, but really just it's just so I have my config files. I can get them from anywhere.
Yeah. My Obsidian Vault is I sync it all with Git on GitHub in a private repo. It's all just.
So anyway, why did you want to talk about free open source software today? What do we get into?
The basic reason I wanted to talk about it, one of my goals for 2025 is to contribute to an open source project. I have done a very bad job in my life of contributing to open source software. I feel like I should do better. I feel like it's something I want to do and I have the skills to do. So why don't I do it? Like, why don't I? This is a way that I can actually give back and help out. Why am I not doing it, Colin?
Well, I would love to help you, but I have the exact same thing. And I would imagine most developers feel that way, right? Like we were saying earlier, like we've pretty much all used open source software to build our careers on. And the average developer isn't really contributing to open source stuff. And when I say that, like I'm not including like your side project that you also have available for everyone. I mean, like projects that like have somewhat of a user base.
I think that's a really important point to make because I think a lot of us have stuff on that we've put on GitHub and made available if anyone cares, kind of on GitHub. But I think by far the more valuable contributions that I'm thinking of here are, contributing to a big project that already kind of has legs and, so somebody's already done the hard work of like getting the project up and forming a user base and finding users for this product and all that. And what they need is like people to do the daily grind kind of like maintenance work of keeping this project running. And that's why it's not fun. It's not sexy. It's way more fun to like start a greenfield project. And, I think there's a little bit of ego involved in us, like I'm Linus in this project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I started this thing. This is my thing. But when it comes to like successful projects that are actually doing good stuff, it takes a lot of people and not everyone can be the leader.
Yeah, and it's like you said, it's usually not even fun.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I wanted to start. Like, what keeps you from contributing to open source projects? I that's a big one for me. Is that like it's my day job. I code all day, and I I do find it really hard to come home and like do more coding on a, you know, now I'm switching gears to a different language and a different tech stack and a different code base. And I'm finding that I just find that really hard. Even though I have the skill set, even though I already know Python, and even though I already have I already know Git and how to dig through a code base and like figure all this stuff out. I just find it hard to find the motivation to do that after I've been working on a similar kind of thing for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's definitely part of it for me. Um, so I have made some small contributions to some open source projects. Uh, I I'm trying to think of like ones that actually got merged. I actually recently had a PR get merged on Kitty, the terminal emulator.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
kind of proud of this. I was just looking at the issues, and somebody wanted the cursor trail, which I'm gonna sound like an idiot if I try to explain it, but like someone wanted to be able to customize the color of it, and I was like, that sounds pretty easy, and I opened a PR and it got merged. I'm actually pretty happy about that.
Nice.
That's my crowning achievement, I guess, in open source. I've made some contributions to I made just I've opened PRs against other things. I can't even really think about anything else that's got merged actually. But yeah, definitely a big part of it for me is like learning the project, right? Because it's not just you hop in there and you write some code and like you're done, right? It's like you got to dig through all the different ways of how this works, and it's always like different from what you've seen before. And there's like paradigms that are in here that you haven't seen, and it feels like work. I guess that's the second thing, right? It doesn't feel fun to do.
Yeah.
But another big one for me is like I'm like so scared I'm gonna open a PR and everyone's just gonna think I'm a big idiot.
That's a really big thing too. Yeah, not knowing uncertainty about like the culture of the project and stuff like that.
Yeah, that, and also like from a technical aspect, I don't know. I mean, because like a lot of people recommend contributing to open source as a learning, like a way to learn, and that's great advice. But also, like when you're putting yourself out there as a student and you're learning, and you're going to make mistakes, right? And you might like have a PR that really sucks, and that's like uncomfortable, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you have to be. I some let me just say some projects are better than others about people being like gentle to newcomers, right? So I think there are definitely projects out there, communities out there, and some projects like have kind of a reputation for that of being unwelcoming, and it's you are afraid to make a mistake and stuff like that. I find it really refreshing when a project goes out of its way to like make it really welcoming for newcomers to get involved in the project for that very reason, because it can be really intimidating.
Yeah. I do find it interesting when in the README it says like PRs welcome, because it's like I mean that's great, but also it's like why do you even have to say that? Like it's a public repo, like and
Yeah.
I don't know.
Agreed. Yeah, that's definitely one for me too. I was saying uncertainty about the project and the community around it. Like that's a big one for me. Is just I don't know. In our last episode we were talking about rebasing versus merging. Like what's the right way to format my commit messages and stuff like that? Or are they gonna like give me crap if I don't write 3 pages on my commit or something?
Well, some do have strict rules about like what the commit messages need to have, or if they should just be one commit that's squashed or what. Yeah.
I mean, when I say that one out loud, that doesn't feel like it should be a reason for me not to do it. Honestly, it feels like that's one that's kind of just like get over it. But I mean, that's one point of friction among a bunch of them, you know?
No, I agree. And I mean, the point I was making about feeling like I'm going to look dumb, like that's something that I also acknowledge is dumb in and of itself, right? Like, really, with anything in life, you shouldn't not do things because you're scared of how you're going to look.
Yeah.
Like, you should just do the things you want to do if they interest you. But I think it's real. It probably prevents a lot of people from making contributions that otherwise would.
Absolutely. Yeah. Anything else? Do you have any other big blockers that, you would contribute if these weren't in the way?
I mean, other than just like things that prevent me from doing more stuff on my computer anyway, just like time constraints and stuff like that. That's, that stands in the way, I guess, but not any more than, anything else that I do.
Yeah. Maybe this goes along with some of the stuff we've said so far, but like some of the size of the code bases for this stuff really, I find a little bit intimidating. It's not to say that some of these projects are like any bigger than the stuff I've worked on at work, at jobs and stuff, but also I was working on that stuff 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
I had a lot of time to really like dig in there, and I had people guiding me, like, try this little project first. They don't just throw you in the deep end of the pool usually.
No, that's very real. I mean, just anything that's a big project, especially if it's been around for a long time, like, and by its nature, in an open source project, you got a lot of people that have worked on it probably. So, yeah, even if you look through the issues and there's a really simple issue, it might take you like a really long time to even figure out what you would have to do to make it happen.
We've talked before on the podcast about how hard it is to estimate time for software projects because of that exact problem, where it's like it takes you a lot of time to even figure out what you need to do and like where the problem is. By the time you've done that work, you're halfway to fixing it. And I think that that's true for open source contributions too. Maybe in that case, it takes you a little longer to actually fix it because you're not as familiar with the code base. But, just understanding the code base and where you need to look to identify this small issue is like half the battle.
Yeah. Let me also say before we move on, like I mentioned that I've opened PRs against things that haven't been merged. And a lot of the time it's like the PR has just been sitting there. And I don't know, like, am I supposed to ping somebody? Or would I look like a jerk if I did that? Or, like that's been something that's like has happened to someone recently. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do about it. And that's a little disheartening. It makes me kind of like not, if you spend a lot of time making a PR and then everything gets merged, that doesn't really make you feel excited to like keep making contributions to things. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that you at least want someone to acknowledge, like, at least personally, I'd rather someone be like, oh, hey, thanks for the contribution. We're not going to merge that because such and such, rather than just like, it just sits out there.
Yeah, and that's fine if they have like a legitimate reason. They say like, this is the direction, take this, like, sure, whatever. But yeah, it's like I don't even know, like, did I do this right? Like, was I supposed to request a review from someone? I don't even know who that would be.
Yeah.
To do.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think that's a good segue into something I wanted to mention, which is to shout out a project that I think is doing a fantastic job of like helping people contribute to the project. So this is a project that I've been trying to contribute to. I kind of like decided on this one as something that I was going to try really hard to make a contribution to during the course of this year. And also it's a Rust project, and I'm learning Rust in conjunction with like learning this project. So it's been kind of a big mountain for me to climb to even do this. I'm trying to learn this code base and learn Rust at the same time. But it's a project called Graphite, and it is, we'll put that in the show notes too. It's a 2D, mostly vector art program, but everything is node based. So like the final output of your image is a series of node calculations. Like if you've ever messed around in Blender with like the shader nodes, or geometry nodes or anything like that, it's like basically everything is a non-destructive action. You can go back and edit any point in the image at any time, right? So you're performing mathematical operations in order to generate the image, and at any point you can go back in the node tree to any node and like adjust it and adjust the final image. Does that make sense?
Am I still with you right now?
Yep.
'Cause I had a little network hiccup there. Okay.
No, you're good.
All right, cool. That's why I was making weird faces if you saw that. Yeah, that sounds really cool, actually. I've been doing a little bit of 2D art for this game project I've been working on, and I'm completely new to this. Like, I've never been like a visual artist. Uh, so this actually sounds really sick.
Oh yeah. No, that's
Do
perfect,
people
man. Check it
do
out.
people do like pixel art with this?
Um,
Because that's what I'm doing. Because I suck at actual art.
that's a good question. I generally think of pixel art as like roster, or however you say that word, roster. Um, but so you wouldn't. I don't know. I don't know if it would be a good fit for that or not, to be honest. But it's mostly
I've been
for
using Asaprite.
Asaprite.
It's cool because it's like just very simple. For regular pixel art stuff.
Oh, you can do like animation and stuff in there.
Yeah, you can. I haven't gotten into that stuff, but
Oh, that's pretty sick. Yeah, graphite's more for like it does have some capabilities beyond vector graphics, but it's more for like making SVGs and that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um,
it's here.
but yeah, so I mean, it is a very cool program. It's a very cool idea. Just the whole idea of being non-destructive, like all the way through the process, is very interesting. Like if you're used to Photoshop or something like that, just imagine that you could go back and modify any operation at any point during the creation of your image. That's kind of how I think of it. I think it's a pretty cool concept.
That's
But
very cool.
from the open source contribution aspect of it, they have a really really good page for like people who are interested in contributing to the project. There's this whole they have like multiple long YouTube videos about like an overview of the code base. Somebody kind of like walks you through just the layout and the like what the different files under there are. It's a fairly complex project. It's actually implemented as a web app, so it involves like some web assembly that then goes, and then it's like kind of a light front end with WebAssembly, and then those messages are processed by the Rust backend, kind of.
Is that why I saw that Svelte is included? There's like Svelte files in here.
Yeah. So Svelte is for the front end, I think. But really, all the front end is doing is like
Okay.
it's taking those instructions from the UI from the browser and passing them to the back end. Rust is doing the heavy lifting, and then it's passing messages back to the front end to describe how to render things, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going through the contribution guide. Yeah, this is
Yeah, there's like multiple pages. It talks about steps for debugging, which is I think something that's often missing in open source onboarding kind of stuff. Is like beyond just print statements included in the language. Like, what's a good way to debug this program? Like, if I'm trying to find out where something's going wrong, they tell you exactly like who to contact on the Discord, how to claim an issue as your own for the first time. How to, like I was talking about earlier, how to format your PR messages and stuff. I thought it was really thorough and really good.
Yeah, really interesting. Like this feels like they're really trying to make it like a real community-driven project.
It really feels like they put time into that part of it, which I think often goes overlooked in projects. It's like it's kind of an afterthought, or it's we'll get to that later. But like it really feels like from the jump they put time and effort into making that contribution section kind of fleshed out. So, given that, so that's an example of a people who've put a lot of time and effort into making sure that people who want to contribute can and do the right thing. So let me just say, on the downside, I've been subscribed to like the GitHub notifications for this project, and there's still just like a ton of bullshit, man. Like, even given all of the work that they've put in there, people still, I don't know. I really don't want to slam anybody. People got all kinds of stuff going on, but like, people do not. I've seen lots that are just like people will put in a PR, and then the maintainers will be like, "Yeah, the program doesn't even compile. Like, this doesn't work at all."
Yeah.
And it's like, man, and that kind of leads to this other part that I wanted to talk about, which is just like, what do open source maintainers owe to the community, right? You've made a project, you've put it on GitHub, the source code is available, you're welcoming PRs. What then do you owe to people? Do you have to review every one of those PRs? Like, like the PRs that you were just talking about that you've submitted that just sit out there forever. It's like, what? I don't know. Are open source maintainers obligated to respond to every PR that somebody puts in?
Yeah, no, I mean they definitely don't owe me anything. One thing I was trying to look this up because I remember reading once that there's a guy on GitHub who I think has like the world record for like most open source contributions than any. I mean, obviously there's someone out there who has more than anyone else, but there's this one guy, and I remember reading about this. And the thing is, like, if you go through his contributions, they're all like fixing typos or like very like basically he's just been playing a numbers game, right? Like just trying to make his GitHub profile look incredible by making like whatever changes he can and touching as much code as possible. And it's just really odd and interesting, and honestly, probably something that totally works. I mean, probably people, employers look at his profile and they're like, "Wow, yeah, this guy's incredible."
Do you really think that works? You think that employers like don't bother to look at any of the contributions? They just see that top line number and they're like, "Oh wow, guys."
There's at least some. I would say there's at least some that just look at the sheer volume. I mean, honestly, the volume is impressive, if I remember right. But I mean, I don't know. I put my GitHub on applications, and I feel like nobody even looks at it. Honestly,
Yeah.
it's like anybody even clicks the link.
I've often kind of wondered about that for jobs, like, because I've heard that advice too. That GitHub contributions are a good way to like make employers. It's like proof that you've been doing something and that you know what you're doing, right? But I've often wondered that too. Do employers actually take the time to like potential employers take the time to look at your GitHub profile and like, oh yeah, that was a clever thing to do. It just seems like the
Yeah,
volume of applicants is way too high.
yeah. I mean, I don't want to get too off topic with this, but sometimes I even wonder, like, I've got projects that I like. I've got like public repos on my GitHub that are like, it has like the initial commit and that's it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've got stuff out there that I'm like, yo, would I be better off deleting this off my profile? Like, honestly, does this look work? I've got stuff that I wrote in college, that's like complete crap. I look at it, I'm like, dude, this is garbage. But like, is it better to have that on there, or is it better to not? I don't even know.
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably
But
depends on. I bet sometimes it's a pro and sometimes it's a con, depending on the employer, right?
yeah, depending who they are, what they're looking for, and what they're feeling like that day.
But that was going to be one of my questions, though. Is like, what are people getting out of doing these really bad PRs? Is it really just a numbers game? It's just quantity over quality. They don't really. They're looking to like create a GitHub profile that looks good in terms of numbers and stuff like that.
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I don't know why you would do that, really.
It just doesn't make a lot of
So
sense to me. Even like the guy you were talking about that has the most commits and stuff. It's like I don't understand what people are getting out of that, really.
yeah, I
Like,
really wish I could. But anyway, to go back, I mean, yeah, I think managing an open source project is completely a thankless job. It sounds rough, honestly.
yeah,
Um, and I mean, you can look at your favorite project, look at some of the issues that get opened. You know what I mean? Like, you'll see comments that are like, "Oh, I can't believe this is still broken. What kind of it's like, dude. I mean, you paid literally $0. Imagine like you're giving away free pizza on the sidewalk, and someone takes a bite and they're like, "Oh, this sucks. This isn't even good." It's like, dude, it's free. What do you want?
yeah. and and I think what's funny about that process, though, is that like I think people do they comprehend exactly what you're saying there when the project is small, and then at some point you kind of cross this threshold, like Firefox or something like that, right? And people are
Mhm.
just like, okay, now you're like backed by a corporation. Now you like owe us something. Like if something breaks, you have an obligation to fix it immediately. Like whatever issue somebody puts in, you need to fix it right away. And it's like I don't really know what that threshold is, and I just think that's kind of a
Yeah,
curious phenomenon.
it is very interesting. I mean, because if you think like, if there was like something that was merged into the Linux kernel that just like broke everything, I mean, we're talking about like a lot of money on the line here, right? Like, this is a big deal. So I guess maybe at some point you do owe people something. I don't know, right? Like,
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the interesting part. Is Linux is an example where I kind of think that yeah, they do have an obligation to um, maintain a certain standard. It's like, yes, you got it for free, but also we're counting on you, man.
yeah. Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot of projects. I mean, we've all seen that XKCD comic where it's like the one little block is holding up the whole thing.
Yeah,
It's like, yeah, if you've got entire industries depending on your thing that no one's heard of, like, I guess you do owe it to people to make sure it works. You could just say like, hey, you should have pinned to the working version, but uh, I don't know. It's a weird situation in general, really.
we had an episode a while back. We were talking. This is kind of old news at this point, but that hack in the XZ
Yeah,
library, right?
exactly. Yeah,
And that was just like, as far as I understand, was just being maintained by one guy who just like didn't have the bandwidth to, comb over every PR that somebody committed, and ended up with malicious software at a very low level in the tech stack, and that's like a real danger that we need to be aware of, and that's the kind of thing is like, oh well, we should have more eyes on this, and we should like have more resources dedicated. It's like, sure, that'd be great, I guess, but I don't know. Does that one guy need to like never take a vacation ever? Does he need to spend all day every day looking at PRs? Like, I don't think he's getting paid to work on XZ. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember that discussion coming up, and people were saying like, "This is ridiculous. This is an outrage," and other people were saying like, "Hey, man, what do you want? You know, like, a person made a mistake." I don't know. I don't really know where I stand on that. Um, one thing I wanted to bring up. So we already mentioned um, that Ginger Bill article uh, about the Odin language and it being open source and kind of like uh, some musings on open source in general, specifically when it comes to languages. There's another programming language project out there called Jai, or I've heard some people call it J. It's spelled JAI.
Hmm.
Um, have you heard of this?
I have. It's from. I'm drawing a blank on who it's from, but it's from a famous guy, right?
Yeah, Jonathan Blow,
Yeah.
who's a pretty big name in indie game development. Really big name, honestly, I should say. Um, and it's kind of interesting because it's a closed source language, which is like you don't really see that anymore, right? Like, doesn't really happen much.
Yeah.
And there's a few like game dev people I follow on YouTube that have said like, yeah, I want to use Jai in my Twitch streams and stuff, and I think you're allowed to stream it and like show it to people, but they just say that they don't want to because then like the community can't use that code. They can't really follow it. Like only basically Jai is invite only right now.
Okay.
So um, from what I've heard, Jonathan Blow said that he only gives invites to people that will actually use it. So if you're like a game dev YouTuber, right, who makes games for real, like he'll let you use it.
Hmm.
And it's interesting. I don't think I've ever actually heard Jonathan Blow make a statement about it, but from what I've read online, basically what it sounds like is he just doesn't want to put anything out there that isn't done because the quote I read is like something along the lines of, whenever something is released on the internet, it's going to be judged as though it's done, regardless of if it's alpha or beta. It doesn't matter what you say, right? People are going to judge it and they're going to like assign how they feel about it.
Yeah.
And Jai's been the project's been going for like 8 years or something.
Oh wow!
So
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, it's been going on for a long time, and everyone I've heard of who's used it has loved it. They say it's great for making games, which is what it's for. And it's kind of interesting. That's actually how I first heard about Odin. Was people were saying like Odin is pretty much, if you can't get an invite to Jai, Odin is like the next best thing. They're pretty similar in a lot of ways. So anyway, I find that interesting. It's basically like two sides of this, right? Like Ginger Bill, who said like, yeah, I'm going to make this open source language and I'm going to maintain it and I'm going to put up with all the stuff that comes with that. And Jonathan Blow saying, no, I'm not doing that. I'm making this thing. I'm having fun doing it. I'll let people use it, but when it's not done, it's not done until it's done. I'm not going to put it out there until it's done, which I find really interesting.
That is interesting. Just for the sake of completeness and because I thought this was an interesting part of the Ginger Bill article. He's talking about open source software, and he talks about his open source software, Odin, and then he says, if there was a possibility of actually selling a compiler nowadays, I would, but because the expected price of a compiler for a new language is now free, it makes that nigh impossible. So yeah, his position isn't so much like, he's basically saying, I would like to make money off it, but I just don't see a path to doing that. People expect compilers to be free. Jonathan Blow's position is more like, I don't want it to be judged in an incomplete state. This isn't so much about like holding it back so that I could potentially sell it one day. It's more like, I want it to be in its final form before people see it.
Yeah. I think the idea is that Jai will be open sourced eventually, or at least will be free. So yeah, it is kind of maybe not the best comparison really in that way. But I don't know. I just find it interesting that there's a closed source language at all.
That's a really interesting I don't know. That's a really interesting model for like rolling something out because usually I don't know. Yeah, usually it's just like you roll it out and you kind of deal with that, deal with people judging it in its incomplete state. I I don't I don't know if I agree totally that people, once you put something on the internet, people will judge it as if it's final. But I do think similar to what we were talking about with open source projects, like kind of crossing some kind of threshold. I think that um, when the community around something, how do I say this? When the project like extends beyond the boundaries of the community who's supported it and is kind of like focused on it, and it makes its way to people who are kind of, they're not familiar with Jonathan Blow and they're not familiar with Jai, and they just like hear about this new language and they're not familiar with all the, you know, the lore or whatever. I think that's when people are like, yeah, this is incomplete, I can't do what I need to do. And like I don't know, it to me it feels similar that there's kind of like a tipping point with that where it's like then people will start to judge it. People who are not familiar with the fact that it's been this like work in progress.
Yeah, I think part of it is I know that Jonathan Blow has made statements about like kind of how some of his games have been received and how it affected him. He seems like very aware of what people are like saying online, and I think maybe that's like influenced his decision here. It's like, yeah, I don't need to put things out early. Uh, I'm also reading some things. Apparently, he's just straight up against FOSS. Actually, I don't know if that's true or not. But I will also say, I mean, other languages like Zig is still alpha, right?
I think so.
Like,
Yeah.
it's definitely not like done, or like it's not like considered production ready. But it's out there and people use it, and people generally really like it. So, you know,
But I think that one's a really good example. Zig is continuing to have the alpha tag to indicate to people this is not done. It's a work in progress, right? And yet as more projects start to use it for like production software, for real live software, I think that there's going to be more people drawn to Zig and more people criticizing it for not being complete or for having like you know, missing features and stuff like that.
yeah. And I guess also, I mean, you have languages that are production ready, like people are building things on, and people are mad that they don't have certain features, right? Like
Yeah.
Go is one. People complain all the time about all sorts of things, exception handling, and like for a long time there was no generics in Go, and like yeah. So I mean, people are going to complain no matter what,
I think that's kind of the lesson, to be honest, man.
really.
People are just going to gripe and complain. It's the sad, sad truth.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks.
Yeah. Open source solved. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's about all I had on the open source stuff. I just, this is kind of an off the cuff one, but there have been some thoughts swirling in my head around open source. Like I said, I made a commitment at the beginning of the year that I am going to make a better effort to contribute to open source projects, to do the unfun work of just like, you know, being involved in an open source project. I think it's really important. I think when you take stock of like the ways that you can give back and you have to like look at your own skill set and be like, what are the ways that I can give back? Not everyone knows how to program, you know, not everyone knows how to write code and stuff like that. So I think for those of us who do, it's a good thing if we use that to benefit other people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think the only other thing I have to talk about. So did you find the "I make furniture out of wood" meme post?
No, I didn't.
Okay. So I actually found the original post. So it's on Docker CLI,
Hmm.
actually. And the issue is allow Docker push to push multiple subsets of tags. I don't really know what the deal is with that. But oh, dang, I lost it. The guy, I'm assuming he's like on the Docker project. This is in 2020. He says, "Sorry I missed your comment of many months. I no longer build software. I now make furniture out of wood. The hours are long, the pay sucks, and there's always the opportunity to remove my finger with a table saw, but nobody asked me if I can add an RSS feed to a DBMS, so there's that." Smiley face. And then after that, I think he answers the actual question. And there's 2,606 thumbs ups, votes on this. People just like, dude, this is hilarious. But honestly, yeah, I feel you.
Yeah, I think we all. That's a pretty funny response. I think we all can relate to that, at least on some days.
Why is it always carpentry? Like, why is that the thing?
I don't know. We've talked about this before. This has come up. Like, yeah, carpentry is an extremely common when programmers are just like, screw it, I've had enough. Carpentry is like one of the things that will come up more often than anything else. I think it's just.
Oh no, sorry, it wasn't a maintainer. It was the guy who opened the issue originally.
Oh.
But then this is like 3 years later. He leaves a comment. So people were asking him stuff about the issue. I'm sorry, Mr. Comment. And also, yeah, he has 0 contributions in the last year. So I think he's making furniture.
Yeah, how many chairs?
Who knows?
I don't know why carpentry, though. I don't know why that comes up more than other things. Just seems to be good fit for nerds, I think.
I guess it doesn't seem like it. It doesn't seem like a nerd thing to do, really. It's just like, why not like welding or like concrete work or something? I guess that's not really. That doesn't have the creative element, I guess, as much.
I could see welding being totally.
Well, welding,
creative.
yeah, it is, but not like the concrete stuff.
Yeah.
That's more just like that's just like labor, really.
Yeah, do people pour concrete for fun? I don't know.
There's probably somebody out there. There's probably a subreddit for cement.
I'm sure of it.
Okay, I'm trying to find a good "Whose Side Are You On" segment. There's gotta be something that's like specifically Foss related. Okay, yeah. Here's a good one. Here's a fun one. Okay, so I don't think I've ever talked about this on the podcast, but I know I've told you the saga of Fuckboy GDX.
Yes, this is quite a while ago, though. You're gonna have to refresh my memory. It's a
yeah. I guess I should also fill in listeners who have no idea what I'm talking about. So Fuckboy GDX, FUCCBOI GDX. I don't even remember exactly what it is, but it's some sort of like library or wrapper for game dev stuff. I think it's built on top of Love2D, or at least it's built in Lua. It's somewhere in that space.
Okay.
And so way back in the day on Facepunch Studios forum, which doesn't exist anymore, there was this persistent thread that was like, what are you working on? And it was, you see these a lot like in nowadays on Discord, which is kind of like modern forum. You'll see like a "what are you working on" channel where people just show, or a showcase channel they'll call it, where people just show like, hey, I'm working on this thing, I'm looking at this cool thing, and it's mostly just people saying like, oh, hey, that's cool, yeah, cool. Yeah, that's generally what it is. So in that thread, somebody showed off his again, it was like a graphics library wrapper or something. It was called Fuckboy GDX. And what happened was a lot of people had strong feelings about the name being Fuckboy GDX.
Sure.
And a lot of it was not really so much like they're offended or anything like that, but they were just saying like, you know, oh, this project's never going to grow. Like this project's not going to have legs because people aren't going to use a project that has a stupid name like that. And then other people saying like it's his project, he can call it whatever he wants. And I think the guy, the maintainer of Fuckboy, I guess the Fuckboy, he he was kind of in the thread, just like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if people use it. I don't care. Like, this is just a thing I made, and whatever. I thought the name was funny. And okay, so the whose side are you on isn't necessarily about Fuckboy GTX specifically, but just kind of the idea of like, are you in line with giving software projects a goofy name, or do you feel like they should have like a descriptive name? I've seen this come up in other places online where people say like, celery shouldn't be called celery. It should be called like Python Q Manager or whatever, or like something that tells you what it is. There's a lot of especially in the Python world. There's a lot of like really goofy names: RabbitMQ, celery. What's the other one? G Unicorn.
Yeah, G Unicorn. I think that has very deep roots in Python with like the cheese store and the cheese wheel. You know what I'm talking about?
Well, I know about Python wheels, but what is cheese store?
So Python is a reference to Monty Python, right? And like,
yeah,
I feel like,
was there a skit about this?
I think it was, I think it was a Monty Python skit. Was the cheese, something about cheese wheels, and that's why the Python wheels are wheel files. I might just making all that up. I might just be making all that up. But
no, that sounds good, because I know that Python is because of Monty Python, and I know that there's a lot of Monty Python jokes. That sounds like a Monty Python skit to me.
And that kind of feels, I mean, right there, like, would we include Python in there? Is Python considered like too goofy a name to be taken seriously? I'm okay with goofy names. I don't think that. I think part of the problem with requiring projects to have a like descriptive name of exactly what they do is that there are often competing projects in a space. And what I hate more than like celery versus, some other task queue thing is like, I hate when I run into the situation where you have Python-async-q and Python-q-async.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, which is this? Which was updated more recently? Which is the real one? What is one of these just like name squatting or whatever? That drives me crazy. I would rather deal with the situation where it's like celery's kind of goofy, but whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel what you're talking about. That's really annoying because there's going to be multiple projects that do the same thing. And it feels kind of dumb to just like append the language or something, like you'll have like messaging queue Python, messaging queue Zig, and they're completely unrelated to each other, but it's just like, because those are the names. Like, I don't know, but I will say, like, I think I like when the name has something to do with what the thing is. Just so it's like, I know what the hell that is. I feel like there's probably someone listening to this who's really mad that we're not more familiar with Monty Python. The only Monty Python stuff I know is The Holy Grail. That's the only one I've seen. It's that movie, and it was very good. I liked it a lot, but I haven't seen any of the other ones.
Yeah, I've seen some of the big ones. I've seen Holy Grail. I've seen Life of Brian. Life of Brian probably more than anything. I've seen plenty of the skits. I just haven't like seen them enough to memorize them and stuff. The Flying Circus skits. Those used to be on Comedy Central all the time. But yeah, I think you're right. I think there's probably somebody who's like, how could you not know about?
So I'm looking this up. The wheel comes from the Cheese Shop sketch. Because initially it only hosted links to the packages, so it was empty like that shop. I don't know, I probably need to watch the skit to understand. I don't know.
but I think there's a lot of those in Python, right from
Yeah.
the very introduction of the language, and I think that led to a kind of like silliness in general that was like um, more so than other ecosystems, at least at the time, right? I don't think there were as many like C++ and Java projects with goofy names.
Yeah. I want to know, like, is there anything that, like, any names that you like a lot in software,
Hmm.
or any ones that you specifically don't like?
That's a good question.
I feel like I had one, but it's slipping my mind now. One thing I wanted to bring up. I I use a tool called Serverless, and like the tool is called Serverless, and Serverless is also like a concept. So multiple times at like on the job, I've been like, yeah, so we're migrating to the serverless, like to serverless, like everything's already serverless, but this we're going to start using serverless for this serverless project now. Like
Yeah.
that's so dumb. Serverless
Yeah.
framework is what it's called, and
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, don't don't do that. Don't name stuff like that.
Yeah, that is kind of annoying. What do you think about Django? Django's not descriptive at all.
Uh, yeah, I like it. That's named
Oh,
after a guitarist.
uh, but like, does it describe in any way the
No,
product? Like, if I were to
no,
tell my wife I use Django, she would be like, I don't know. It has nothing to do with Python. It's nothing to do with web. It has nothing to do with anything.
yeah, it's not descriptive at all, but I do like it. I like when things are like descriptive in like a weird roundabout way.
Hmm.
Um, I can't think of anything, but you know what I mean. Like, um, as soon as we're done recording, I'm gonna think of something.
I think Amazon was kind of like that in the beginning when it was the bookstore, right? The idea was that there are tons and tons and tons of books, right? Enough that it could fill the rainforest or whatever.
Right, right.
Right. I think it was just suggestive of like a huge space full of trees, maybe. I don't know. It's a little bit of a
Yeah.
stretch, but I
No,
think the
yeah.
idea was suggestive.
I like when they have when it's like, in a way, there's a relationship. Um,
There's one that's on the tip of my tongue that I really hate, and I cannot think of it. It's similar to your serverless one, and I have to talk about it at work
like
sometimes.
I guess a name that is like what I'm talking about, where it's sort of related in a roundabout way, would be like Rust. Right? Like it's called Rust because it's close to the metal, is what some people say. But then there's also, because Rust is a fungus. There's something about this, and it spreads.
Rust is a fungus.
Rust is
What?
technically a fungus. Yeah. Uh, so Rust is named after a fungus that is robust, distributed, and parallel. And yeah, Rust, like the actual Rust, is uh, technically a fungus. One of those weird things. But it also, I don't know if the close to the metal thing was intentional, but that also works, right? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like the name Rust doesn't tell you that it's a programming language, but the name is like, it has a logic to it. I like that.
I mean, I guess my thing with all that stuff is like, I don't think that those kind of um, you know, roundabout ways of like getting at the heart of the project. I don't think that those really alleviate the problem with the silly naming, which is that like you don't know what you're talking about unless you know
Yeah.
already. I I don't know what Django is unless somebody's told me, oh, that's a web framework that you write in Python, right? Um, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know what Rust is without
Yeah.
knowing what Rust is already. Whereas I feel like the original part of the question was you want some kind of description where I can tell just from the name what this thing is and what it does. And I think that especially in the world that we live in today, where so many projects are like so small and so specialized. I just don't even know if that's feasible. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
Just call it fuckboy GDX.
Yeah. What one tool that this might have, I feel like this might have been what you. This is my guess as to what it was you were thinking of as a name that you don't like. Do you ever use Werkzeug?
Definitely not.
It's spelled Werkzeug. It's a Python thing.
Oh, yeah, Flask uses it, right?
Yes.
Not what I
You
was
probably
thinking
say,
of.
well, in my head, for the longest time, I always said Werkzeug or Werkzeug. But I looked it up one time. It means toolbox in German,
Oh.
and it's pronounced Werkzeug. Um, I don't like that name. I've actually never looked it up. Maybe it's German for tool. But I feel like I don't know if it was made by Germans, then I guess that's fine. But if not, then I don't like it.
Depends on who made it, whether the name is
Well,
okay.
you know what I mean. If you did that just to be cute, then like I don't like that
Right.
because nobody knows how to say that.
What about Docker? Docker is kind of an interesting. I mean, Docker is kind of suggestive of what it does. It floats containers, I guess. It supports containers.
Yeah, well, okay. Docker is like if you wanted to give it a descriptive name, what do you even call it?
Yeah.
Container. What does Docker do again?
It would be something like Container Manager or something.
Container, but Docker container, they kind
of. But again, I think that has the same problem of Docker. You would still need to explain to somebody what it does.
Okay, another thing I don't like in naming is like I don't like that Go is like if I'm searching for Go, I have to search for Golang because Go is just will match every result on the internet.
Yeah, I do agree with that one on Go. Go is a bad name, and also they don't have any excuse. C, in terms of like searching for things on the internet, C is also a bad name, but they have the excuse of being decades and decades old.
Yeah, before the internet existed, so it's like okay, sure.
Go does
but
not.
Yeah, Go doesn't have that. I kind of dislike that a little bit about Odin as well. Like, especially being a lesser known language, you search Odin, you have to search Odin Lang because, like, if you just search Odin, you'll find like stuff about mythology and God of War and other references to weird stuff, Marvel movies or whatever.
Yeah, I mean Rust probably has that problem. Does Python have that problem?
If you just search Python, you'll probably see snake stuff. But Rust, the big thing with Rust is like, I've told like non-programmer people about Rust, or I did one time, and he thought I was like talking about the video game. He's just like, "Oh, is that like associated with the game?"
Oh,
and
yeah.
I'm like, "Oh, no, it's not. They just have the same name."
Now there's a movie too.
Oh, did that come out?
I don't know. I only know of it
I feel like I would have heard if it came out. Oh, it came out in 24. Oh, wait, but this isn't. Wait, is this. Is this the movie where. Yeah, this is the movie where Alec Baldwin shot somebody in the making of the movie. Yeah. But there's also. Am I tripping? I thought they were going to make a movie about the game Rust.
Oh, I don't know.
Maybe I'm completely confused. Maybe I'm thinking of like the Minecraft movie or something. I think so. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. Any like one word name that's just like a regular thing you encounter in day-to-day life?
Thumbs down for you?
Yeah. I would say, yeah. At least spell it different, you know? What they should have done is it should have been Rust, like RVST. Like
Yeah,
it's a black metal band or something.
yeah, that'd be kind of sick. I don't
um,
know. I just think like I think the world of software is very complicated these days, and I think if projects tried to name their projects, tried to be descriptive, we'd end up with some like super wordy names that were, I don't know. I
yeah.
I'm on board with silly names. Let's go. Just tell me how to find the documentation.
At first, I was thinking that names should be descriptive, but I think you're right. After talking about it, like, yeah, I don't think that's like really feasible to make everything have a descriptive name.
It's just going to be too
So,
many conflicts.
yeah.
Yeah.
It sucks that like every name is taken though. That's another thing. You know, you ever start a side project and you're like, can I name this if there's like some other package no one's ever heard of that has the same name? Is that okay? Can I do that?
What did I saw one on Hacker News just the other day that I was like, you named your project that? Like that's a fairly
Yeah.
well-known thing already. That's
I
kind of
think I,
weird.
I think I saw it too. But that happens regularly. Like you'll see someone does like the announcement post or whatever, and then people will be in the comments like, yeah, there's like five other things with that name.
Yeah. Oh, I know. There was one. We've talked about the creative coding framework VVVV before,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
there's also a
that's terrible.
VVVVV.
Yeah, every number of these has a different project with that name.
That's confusing.
Yeah, and just a bad name.
They're all
Like
bad names. All of the
it's just a bad
multiple of
name.
these projects are bad names.
Yeah, I mean, how do you even say that out loud? Like, I mean, I guess you could say like people say like AAA. Like you could say like quintuple V.
Oh, I think that's
Um,
even worse. Yeah.
yeah, uh, yeah, that's dumb. I feel like I'm gonna be up all night thinking of names that I like and don't like. There's definitely like cutie names that I think are like, okay, that's a really fun name. Uh, but I can't really think of what they are right now.
I kind of like Rabbit MQ. I think that's funny. I
Yeah, that's fun.
I think that the MQ at the end tells you, if you know what
Yeah,
MQ stands for, it tells you what it does.
yeah, you have an idea, and then you can actually search for it, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to search rabbit Python messaging queue or whatever.
Yeah.
I will say, like, okay, I was just talking about the terminal emulator Kitty. That's a cool name, but like, you can't just name something Kitty, right? Like, you can't name something like one of the most frequently like you can't like a frequently used word should not be the name of your project without some sort of qualifier.
That's a really funny one because, the joke with Kitty is that it contains TTY, right? And so like
Oh, is that what it is?
I mean, I assume
That
like
makes
a
sense.
lot of those terminals like Ghosty and stuff like that, like
Yeah,
TTY will be part of the name. And so
that makes sense.
it's like you could tell somebody who didn't know, who wasn't deep into the software world, you could tell them about this project Kitty, and they wouldn't even know that that was supposed to be a joke or a pun or whatever.
I didn't know that until right now. I never put that together.
Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm reading too much
No,
into
it
it. I
has
don't
to
know.
be. I mean, the ghosty thing, absolutely. And see, like, okay, ghosty. It's like, okay, you spelled ghosty. Is ghosty even a word? But I mean, ghost and then an extra T and a Y. Like that's something that's like a unique name. Kitty is like Kitty terminal. You have to search. Like
Yeah.
that's annoying.
Homebrew is also bad. A homebrew is a bad name. Um, I feel like there's a lot of it's hard to search for homebrew, or at least it used to be.
Uh,
A lot of results for homebrew that are not related to the
I do like
Mac
the name
OS
though.
package manager. You like homebrew?
It is fun. I think it's a fun name.
I think that's a reasonable description of like, that's one that reasonably describes what it does, right? You kind of like get the
Yeah,
gist that
yeah.
there's a whole like, anyway, but yeah, I think that's a pretty good like kind of gives you a hint about what it's doing. Just hard to search for.
I think it's kind of odd that the Arch Linux package manager is called Pacman, and like that's just okay. Like, I mean, it would be kind of crazy for Bandai Namco to like go after an open source project for something like that, but it just seems like, I don't know, that feels like a bad idea, you know?
Yeah.
If you were like, hey, let's call this project Mario,
yeah,
or Pikachu, I'd be like, yeah, let's not do that. You know, let's just not.
Asking for trouble.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I haven't thought about that. I agree. I'd probably steer clear. Does Pac-Man make money? Does Arch make money? I don't know.
I really don't even know who's behind it. Or yeah, I don't know. Well, okay, actually, I never thought about it. Okay, Pac-Man is an abbreviation for package manager.
I never thought about that either.
But still,
what does Pac-Man in the game mean? Wait.
Oh, it was. I know this. It was supposed to be Puck-Man, like because he's like a puck. And I think they just didn't do that because it sounded like the F word.
Oh.
Or maybe it was a mistranslation or something like that. At some point, it was supposed to be Puck-Man, and then they just made it Pac-Man.
Monkey Kong.
Right, same kind of thing there.
Puck-Man.
All right. I know I'm dragging on, but I feel like as soon as we finish recording, I'm gonna think of like the name of something that I love or the name of something that I hate. That's just how it's so hard to be a podcaster, dude.
If you're listening to this and you have examples of project names that you love or hate, leave them in the comments below.
Should I just like edit this so like as soon as we finish recording, there's just like a montage of me saying names?
Yes. We'll put music over it.
Yeah, okay.
It'll be like
that could be a separate short we can do.
Yeah. It'll be like a training montage from Karate Kid or something.
I'll edit. All right. We got to wrap this up.
All right. Thanks for listening.
Catch you next time.
1X Developer Podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Colin. First and foremost, I want to thank you all for listening to this episode of the 1X Developer Podcast, and let you know that if you have any questions, comments, or if you just want to tell us about your day, you can reach us at X, formerly known as Twitter, at 1X Developer Podcast. We're also on YouTube at 1X Developer Podcast. You can email us if you're weird at 1xdeveloperpodcast at protonmail.com. And lastly, don't forget to follow, subscribe, all that stuff, so you don't miss any further episodes of the 1X Developer Podcast. Thanks so much. See you next time.